Hello everyone. In the series of pharmaceutical microbiology, today we are going to study about several prokaryotics and the eukaryotic cells. So let's start with understanding the cellular classification. The classification of cell is basically all living organisms, that is bacteria, blue-green algae, plant and animals. They have their cellular organization and they may contain one or many cells. The organism with one cells in their body are known as unicellular organism like bacteria, blue-green algae, some algae and protozoans, etc. The organism having many cells in their body are called multicellular type of organism like fungi, most plants and animals. So any living organism, it may contain one type of cell, either they may be prokaryotic in nature or they may be eukaryotic in nature. So when we are using this term prokaryotic or eukaryotic, this term is suggested by Hans Rees in the 1960s, and this classification is based on their complexity. Further, based on the kingdom into which they may fall, that is the plant kingdom or the animal kingdom, plant or animal cell bears made many differences. So these studies will be done in detail in the upcoming session. So now we are moving toward the structure of the eukaryotic cell. Here you can see a brief structure of the eukaryotic cell, and you can see here that each organelle is bounded inside a membrane. So this is the basic difference between the eukaryotic and the prokaryotic. In the structure of prokaryotic cell, you can see here the genetic material, that is nucleate, is not embedded inside any of the membrane. So we are moving on to the basic difference in between the eukaryotes and the prokaryotes. So on the basis of their characteristic like size of cell, the prokaryotic, they are having a typically 0.2 to 2.0 mm in diameter. When we talk about the eukaryotic cell, they are about 10 to 100 mm in diameter. When we are talking about nucleus, so in prokaryotes there are no nuclear membrane or no nuclei. Then in eukaryotes, true nucleus is present, which is consist of a nuclear membrane and nuclei. Membrane enclosed organelles are absent in case of prokaryotes, but they are present in case of eukaryotes. For example, it includes lysosomes, Golgi complexes, endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, and chloroplast. Then when we talk about flagella, so prokaryotes, they consist of two protein building blocks, and in eukaryotes, the flagella is complex and it consists of multiple microtubules. The glycocalyx, it is present as a capsule or slime layer in case of prokaryote, and as complex, it consists of multiple microtubule in eukaryote. Glycocalyx, it is present as a capsule or slime layer. Then eukaryote, it is present in some cells that lack a cell wall. Cell wall, it is usually present in case of prokaryotes, but it is chemically complex. Typical bacterial cell wall includes peptidoglycan, but in eukaryotes, when present, they are chemically simple in nature. Plasma membrane, no carbohydrate, and generally it lacks of sterol in case of prokaryote, but sterol and carbohydrate that serve as receptor present in case of eukaryotes. Cytoplasm, so no cytoskeleton or any cytoplasmic streaming is present in prokaryotes, while in case of eukaryotes, cytoskeleton, cytoplasmic streaming is there. Ribosome is normally smaller in size in case of prokaryote, that is 70s, and in case of eukaryote it is larger in size, and in some type of eukaryote it may be smaller, 70s in in case of organelles. Then chromosome or DNA arrangement, single circular chromosome which lacks of histone is present in prokaryotes, but multiple linear chromosome with histone is present in case of eukaryote. Then cell division is done by binary fission in prokaryotes and by mitosis in case of eukaryotes. Sexual reproduction, no meiosis or transfer of DNA fragments, only through conjugation is done in prokaryotes, while in case of eukaryotes, it involves meiosis for the reproduction. So now we are further moving on to the bacterial cell, its size, its arrangement, its shape, and how it is further divided or classified. So the prokaryotes, these are among the most smallest type of organism, that is about 0.5 to 2.0 nm, and the smallest member of the genus is about 0.3 micron in diameter. Its examples are E. coli, which is a bacillus of about average size is 1.5 to 1.5 micron and wide by 2.0 to 6.0 micron long. The next example is of spirochetes. It is occasionally reach 500 micrometer in length, and the Cyanobacterium oxyteraria, it is about 7 micrometer in diameter. So when we talk about the size, the prokaryotes, these are among the most smallest type of organism. Because of their small size, these bacteria have a large surface to volume ratio, and the smallest member of the genus is about 0.3 micron, as I told you earlier also. So now when we are moving further, on the basis of the shape and arrangement, the bacteria are further divided, or we can say the bacteria are further classified. So first one is the spherical type of bacteria. The spherical type of bacteria generally have a term coccus or a plural cocci or diplococci or streptococci they may be. So the term cocci, when we use this term cocci as a suffix in any of the word, it means that the name of the bacteria is indicating that this particular type of bacteria is round in shape or it is spherical in shape. So coccus, plurococci, tetrad, saccharine, staphylococci, these are the four type of spherical bacteria. As you can see here in this picture, the diplococci, which have a plane of division and it can divide the bacteria into two planes, that is diplococci. Then second is streptococci, which are which forms a chain like of structure. The spherical cells, they are arranged in a chain. Then if they appear to be in cube like group of 8, then they are known as saccharine, and if they appear in a grape like structure, then they are known as staphylococci. So next we are moving on to the rod like bacteria, or the term bacillus. This bacillus is further divided into four parts. First one is the diplobacilli. It means the bacillus, the rod-like structure, which are in pair. Then strepto is in chain. Then next is still other look like cocci and are called cocobacilli. Next, when we move on further, there is a spiral type of bacteria, that is comma-shaped Vibrio. Then helical, long and curved is Spirilla. Helical and flexible is Spirochaetes, and which have a movement by axial filament. In addition to all these, there are several star-shaped cells which is known as genus Stella, some square, flat cells which are known as halophilic archaebacteria. Then we have several triangular cells, they are known as haloarcula, and we have branching mycelium-like filament streptomyces also. So these are the other shape and special shape and arrangement which also exist. Generally, the most of the bacteria, these are monomorphic. Monomorphic means that they are having a single type of shape, but in some cases they may have multiple shape, and they are known as pleomorphic. Like in case of corynebacterium or in case of rhizobium, they exist in more than one shape. That's why they are known as pleomorphic. And if they exist in only one shape, then they are known as monomorphic. So now we are moving on to the generalized structure of a bacteria. Here you can see in this diagram all the parts of the prokaryotic cell, that is bacteria, is visible here. So we are firstly starting with the bacterial cell wall. So it is a complex semi-rigid structure that surrounds the underlying plasma membrane, and it protects the cell and the internal part from adverse surrounding environment. Except for mycoplasma and some archaea, most bacteria, they have strong walls that give them shape and protect them from osmotic lysis. Wall shape and strength is primarily because of the presence of peptidoglycan. The cell wall of pathogenic bacteria, it is having several components which can contribute to its pathogenicity and protect a cell from toxic substances, and are the site of action for several antibiotics. So the major function, when we talk about the major function of the cell wall, it prevents the cell from rupturing, it maintains the shape and serves as a point of anchorage for the flagella. So Christian Gram was the scientist who developed the Gram stain in year 1884, and it became evident from his experiment that the bacteria, it could be divided into two major groups based on the Gram staining, and the major groups are the gram positive bacteria, which is stained purple, and the gram negative one, which colored pink or red by the technique. So the gram positive cell wall, it consists of a thick layer of 20 to 80 nm of peptidoglycan, or we can also say murine layer, which lies outside the cell membrane. And in case of gram negative cell, the peptidoglycan layer, it is thin in nature, it is about 2 to 7 nm, and it is surrounded by 7 to 8 nm thick outer membrane. So the gram positive cell, these are stronger because of the presence of thick layer than the gram negative one, because of the peptidoglycan thick layer, which is having a higher thickness in case of gram positive one than gram negative one. So there is a space in between the plasma membrane and the outer membrane in the diagram. So of gram negative bacteria, and a similar one but smaller gap may be observed between the plasma membrane and wall in gram positive bacteria. So what is this space? This space is the periplasmic space, and the substance which occupies this space is known as periplasm. So the periplasmic space in gram negative bacteria, it ranges from 1 nm to as great as 71 nm, and it contains many protein, and it participates in several nutrition acquisitions, hydrolytic enzyme attacking nucleic acids, and phosphorylated molecules. The periplasmic space contains enzymes involved in peptidoglycan synthesis and modification of toxic compound that could harm the cell. So the gram positive bacteria, it may not have a visible periplasmic space, but appears to have as many periplasmic protein, and several enzymes that are secreted are often known as exenzymes. Now when we move on further, we have to study about the structure of the peptidoglycan. So the cell wall of bacteria, it is composed of a macromolecule network of polymer, which is known as peptidoglycan, or commonly known as murine. And this polymer contains two sugar derivative. First is the sugar derivative are the monosaccharide in nature, and the first one is N-acetyl glucosamine, that is NAG, and second is the N-acetyl muramic acid, that is NAM. In addition, there are several different amino acids, three of which are D-glutamic acid, D-alanine, and mesodiamino pimélic acid, which are not found in protein, are present also. The presence of D-amino acid, it protects the attack against by most of the peptidase enzyme. The backbone of this polymer is composed of alternating N-acetyl glucosamine and N-acetyl muramic acid. As you can see here in this picture, that the backbone, it is composed of alternating N-acetyl glucosamine and N-acetyl muramic acid residue. A peptide chain of 4 altering D and L amino acid, it is connected to the carboxyl group of N-acetyl muramic acid, and many bacterial substitute another diamino acid, usually L-lysine, in the third position, or mesodiamino pimélic acids. So chain of the linked peptidoglycan subunit, it is joined by a cross-link between the peptides, and often the carboxyl group of the terminal D-alanine, it is connected directly to the amino group of the diamino pimélic acid. But a peptide interbridge may be used instead. So most gram-negative cell wall peptidoglycan lacks the peptide interbridging. So it is also a basic difference in between the prokaryotes and the eukaryotes. Here you can see the diagram of the gram positive type of cell wall. So the cell wall, it consists of many layer of peptidoglycan which is forming a thick rigid structure and contains a peptide interbridge. The gram positive cell wall, it also contains teichoic acids, polymers of glycerol and ribitol joined by phosphate group. To the glycerol and ribitol group, the amino acids such as D-alanine or sugar-like glucose are attached. And there are two classes of teichoic acid which are present over here. The first one is the lipoteichoic acid, that is if they are attached to the lipid of the plasma membrane, and second is the valteichoic acid which extends to the surface of peptidoglycan and they are generally negative charged. Then teichoic acid, they are not found in case of gram negative type of bacteria. So when we are moving further, here you can see in the diagram the structure of the gram negative cell wall. So this cell wall, it contains only a thin layer of peptidoglycan. For example, in case of E. coli, it is around 2 to 3 nm thick, and it also contains one or two layer of sheets of peptidoglycan. As you can see here in the diagram, the peptidoglycan, it is bounded to lipoprotein in the outer membrane and it is embedded into the soft material, that is the periplasmic gel. The gram negative cell wall, it does not contain any of the teichoic acid and they are more susceptible to mechanical breakage because of the small amount of peptidoglycan present. The outer membrane, it is found primarily in gram negative cell wall and it consists of lipoproteins, liposaccharides and phospholipids and lies outside the thin peptidoglycan layer. The most abundant membrane protein is Brown's lipoprotein, a small lipoprotein covalently joined with the underlying peptidoglycan and it is embedded into the outermost membrane by its hydrophobic acid. So these are the typical type of cell wall, that is gram positive type of cell wall and gram negative type of cell wall. Along with this, we have a typical atypical cell wall. First one is the mycoplasma. As you can see it here, the mycoplasma. It is a bacterial genus that naturally lack cell wall and their plasma membrane have lipid which is known as sterol and it protect them from osmolytic lysis. Then second is the archaebacteria. They have generally pseudomorine, that is N-acetylose aminouronic acid, but they do not have any peptidoglycan. Then lastly, we have L form of bacteria. L form of bacteria is generally nothing but a mutant bacteria with any defective type of cell wall. So this is all about the cell wall. Now we are moving on to the topic that is damage to the cell wall. So the presence of cell wall, it is very essential to protect any bacteria against destruction by osmotic pressure. The bacterial cytoplasm, it is much more concentrated with solutes than in most microbial habitat which are hypotonic, and during osmosis the water moves across the selectively permeable membrane such as plasma membrane from the dilute solutions, that is from higher water concentration to the more concentrated solution that is having lower water concentration. And usually this water generally enters the bacterial cell and the osmotic pressure, it may reach up to 20 atmospheres. So the plasma membrane, it cannot resist such high pressure and the cell wall will swell up and it get physically destructed and finally it get destroyed. That is a process which is known as lysis. In case of hypertonic habitat, the water flows outward and the cytoplasm, it shrivels up and pulls away from the cell wall. And this phenomena, it is known as plasmolysis and it is generally useful for the preservation of foods because of the many microorganisms they cannot grow in dried food and jellies, as they cannot avoid the plasmolysis. So the importance of the cell wall in protecting bacteria, it can be demonstrated by treatment with lysozyme, that is a naturally occurring agent in eukaryotic cell and is a constituent of tear, mucus and the saliva. It attacks the peptidoglycan by hydrolyzing the bond that connect with the NAM and NAG unit of monosaccharides. Generally, the antibiotic like penicillin, it inhibits the peptidoglycan synthesis. The gram-positive cell wall, it get destroyed and the remaining cellular content are referred to as protoplast. The gram-negative cell, they are not completely destroyed and the remaining cellular contents are referred to as spheroplast. So the protoplast and spheroplast are subject to osmolytic lysis, and that is why the antibiotic like penicillin, they can easily destroy the bacteria by interfering with the formation of the peptide across bridges of peptidoglycan and ultimately by inhibiting the cell wall synthesis. So this is all about the damage to the cell wall, and in this series next we will going to study about the internal structure which are present inside the cell wall of a prokaryotic cell. I hope you will be able to understand with this lecture. Thank you all.